All right, so in the last video, I showed you one way to induce a charge, but here is a second way, which we call inducing a charge with grounding. So when we say ground, we literally could mean the earth, the ground. So imagine that the earth, think of the charges on it. It is such a massive object, the earth is, that even if we sprinkle a few extra electrons, or maybe we take away a few electrons, overall, the earth is still going to be neutral. It's always neutral. Even imagine when lightning strikes the ground, okay? Those charges disperse evenly to the point where we don't even notice there's an extra charge added to the earth. So think of the earth or the ground as always just neutral. And what it'll do is it's going to neutralize any object that it touches. So keeping that in mind, let's consider the same sphere, which is neutral, equal protons, equal electrons, and we bring that same positively charged rod nearby. Again, nearby, so we are inducing, we are not touching. So when we connect the sphere to the ground, which we call grounding the sphere, my extra electrons are trying to, again, reach that positively charged rod, so they are shifted all the way to the left side, meaning the atoms on the right are left missing electrons. So when we hook it up to the earth does not care if it gives off some electrons. So what it wants to do is neutralize whatever it's closest to. Since these atoms are missing electrons, the earth says, hey, take some of mine. So you can see we have some extra electrons coming through, and they're going to neutralize just the right side of the sphere. Again, the negatives here are still bound. So when we remove the ground, we see the right side of the sphere is left neutral. My negatively charged atoms are on the left. So now even when we move the rod away, we are only left with extra electrons, with the negatively charged atoms. Okay, so negative charges do not like each other. So what would happen is they can evenly get distributed throughout. But we went from a neutral sphere. Now at the end of this grounding, we have a negatively charged sphere. So another way to induce a charge this way using grounding. Okay, so the other day when you were playing with the electroscopes, you guys were actually inducing polarization. Okay, now you can have two types of electroscopes. The one on the left has some needles, leaves, we call them. These are the leaves. Over here, what you guys saw was a single needle. Both act the same exact way. They detect charge. So at the microscopic level, what's happening here? At the charge level, I should say. Let's say we brought a charged rod, this one happens to be negative, nearby to the neutral electroscope, equal protons, equal electrons, but because we bring a negative charge nearby, we are scaring away all these electrons to the opposite side, to the bottom part, okay, which leaves some atoms missing electrons, positive charges, closest to the rod. Again, still neutral, but if you were to go and touch these leaves, that would be another way of grounding it, okay? We can neutralize the bottom, which then would leave a positive charge in the electroscope, okay? But in this picture, we have simply polarized the charge. They are separated. Same thing over here, it's just a different type of electroscope. Negative charge comes nearby, we scare away the electrons to the bottom, leaving positive charges up here, negative here. Now notice, again, negative charges do not like each other, so while they have to be on this bottom part of the electroscope, they do not like each other. So they are going to separate as much as they can. Meaning, when we look at an electroscope, we see this needle move, okay? Because those electrons do not like each other. So just another example of how something would be polarized. So what would a question look like? Well, imagine this would be your question, a really good multiple choice, by the way. A negatively charged rod is brought near a neutral electroscope before the electroscope is grounded. What charge will be left on the electroscope after the rod is removed? So, kind of wordy question. When you see this, what I want you to imagine are those same kind of cartoony images I've just shown you, okay? Because really there are 4 steps here, all in 2 sentences. So what came first? We started with the neutral electroscope. Then we brought a negatively charged rod nearby. We grounded the electroscope, and then we removed the rod.